Hi guys, welcome back to Econ Time with SK. So grab your notebooks, your favorite cup of coffee, and let's get started. So in this series of lectures, we are going to look at the concept of elasticity. So essentially, our learning goals are to first learn the different types of elasticity. So there's price elasticity of demand, which we're often going to refer to as PED or ED. There's cross elasticity of demand, which you'll often see me write as CD or EC. And then there's income elasticity of demand, which I will refer to as YED or EY. Remember that in economics, the symbol for income is Y. All right, and then we're going to come to price elasticity of supply, which is PES or ES for short. And finally, we'll learn about the applications of the price elasticity of demand, in particular, how it impacts total revenue and the burden of tax. Okay, so whenever you see the word elasticity, how should you think about it? Well, just think of the term responsive, degree of responsiveness, or think of the word reaction or reactive. How reactive is X to Y? Okay, so when we are talking about price elasticity of demand, essentially we are looking at how responsive is quantity demanded to a change in price. So the idea being that let's say that the price increases by this much, okay? Let's say 10%, okay? In that case, you want to see if the change in quantity demanded is this much, like it's a lot bigger than the change in price, or is it, let's say, very tiny? Okay, so essentially, this is what we mean by responsiveness. Does it respond a lot or does it react very little? So when we say that it's responding a lot, right? So basically, big response in quantity demanded to change in price. When this response is huge, we say that the demand is elastic. On the other hand, when there's a small response in change in quantity demanded due to change in price, then we say it is inelastic. So the bottom line is if it's very responsive, if it reacts a lot to a change in price, then we say it is elastic, very responsive. On the other hand, if the change in quantity demanded is quite small, when there's this slight change in price, then we say that the demand is inelastic, all right, not so responsive. So always just think of elastic. Whenever you hear the word elastic, just think very responsive. And when you hear the word inelastic, just remember it means less responsive. Okay. So next, we want to get done with some of the preliminaries. What's important is that we figure out how to calculate the price elasticity of demand. Okay. So it's just a formula being written down here. We're saying that the elasticity of demand, so this we can also write as PED, the price elasticity of demand is the percentage change in quantity demanded. So percentage change in the quantity demanded due to a change in price. So due to a percentage change in price. All right, so for short, we can write it like this. Now let's just go through a very simple example, all right? So right here, what we've got is we're being told that, let's say, peanut butter দামটা বেড়ে যাচ্ছে by 10%, okay? And of course, so let me write this down. Peanut butter, price of the peanut butter increases by 10%. তখন দেখা যাচ্ছে যে quantity demanded, so quantity demanded of peanut butter, it actually falls by 20%, right? So actually, if you were to just look at this, the price, I always like to draw it to show you the comparison. So this is 10% increase in the price of peanut butter. সেই কারণে কিন্তু তোমার quantity demanded দেখো 20% is greater than 10%, right? So it's basically falling like this, let's say. Okay, so this is 10%, this is 20%. You can see that quantity demanded is actually responding a lot more than the change in the price, right? So actually এখানে দেখে কিন্তু আমরা বুঝতে পারছি যে this is an example of elastic demand. Peanut butter has elastic demand. So how are you going to calculate it? Well, if these numbers are given, you can just directly use the formula. So you just plug in the values. Percentage change in quantity demanded is 20%. Okay, and then percentage change in price is 10%, right? মাথায় রাখতে হবে যে যেহেতু we're talking about a fall in demand, you're going to put a minus sign in front. So that's exactly what we are doing here, this minus sign in front. Okay, and then divided by the 10%. So you're going to get a value minus 2. Now, minus sign, so we have to, so whenever we're doing elasticity, when you're looking at the interpretation, remember the two parts to it. Okay, so এখানে কি দেখছি আমরা যে elasticity of demand কিন্তু -2, তাই না? এখন this minus actually has an interpretation and this 2 has a different meaning. So minus তে কি বোঝানো হচ্ছে? Minus shows you the negative relationship between price and quantity demanded. So the minus basically is just telling you, hey, look, the law of demand holds. It's showing you the principle of the law of demand. The price বাড়লে obviously quantity demanded কমবে, whereas price কমলে quantity demanded বাড়বে. So this negative relationship, that's what this minus sign captures. It doesn't really tell you how elastic a good is. To figure out how elastic or inelastic a good is, you're going to look at this number. All right. And so this number, now we're going to study the rules pretty soon. This number, actually, if it's more than 1, we say it is elastic. And if it is less than 1, we say that it is inelastic. So in this case, so that's why you have to ignore the minus sign. Whether it is more than 1 or less than 1, it depends on this value here. Okay? And I'm jumping ahead here, but remember that elasticity actually will always be between 1 and 0. Okay? So that's why I'm saying here, Jadako, we actually take the absolute value of the elasticity of demand. Absolute value মানে তুমি যখন মডুলাসটা নিচ্ছ, when this is the sign for modulus, essentially it ignores the sign. So আসলে elasticity of demand is 2. Because the minus sign just tells me there's a negative relationship between the two goods. And this number itself represents is the demand elastic or not.
Okay, guys, so in the next video, we are going to continue with our discussion of elasticity. Specifically, we're going to look at alternative formula for calculating elasticity.
All right, guys, I shall see you in the next video. Take care. Bye.